Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to dive into this small block Chevy that we're going to call a budget build. It's for a UMP Dirt Modified. It's going to be different for everybody's got their own levels of where their budget is, but this is a really solid piece. It's not a blank check kind of a build, but it is still an engine that's going to get him to the front, and it should last a very long time. Stick with us. Let's check this thing out. We've already checked main bearing clearance, so I'm going to rip the mains back off. We're going to go ahead and slide the camshaft in and get the crank ready to go back in it. So. Okay, so with any engine build, the first thing that I do once I check my mains, I always stick the cam in. I'm going to repeat this over and over and over as many times as I make a video on building an engine. I always stick the cam in first, because if the cam bearings aren't aligned or if there's a problem in there, you can take care of it right now really easy. If you wait till later, it's really going to be a hassle. The other awesome thing is that if the crank's still out of it, you've got to oil your mains anyway. Well, you can oil your mains while you're oiling the cam. You can do all this. It makes it a little bit smoother. You can also get the cam really good, oiling it up, and not have to do it all out here and get your hands all nasty. So anyway, we're gonna just put a liberal amount, and we're just gonna slide it in, and I just put it on the next journal as I roll in, and then I expect the first one to always get wiped off, so I just go ahead and keep stacking it in, so we're not going in dry. Okay, and then I'm going to get the rear in, and I leave the rear cam plug out. A lot of you guys at home that paid someone else to put your cam bearings and stuff in won't have that option, or it's not as easy, but I do that because I can use my hand and I can lift up the rear of the cam and set it in place exactly how I want it. So I'm going to lube up the very front journal, and if I leak a little on the mains, what's it hurt? Because I'm getting ready to oil all that mess up anyway. So I do that, then I put a good amount on the cam gear itself, the distributor gear. This is a small block Chevy, so obviously. And then you lift that up and get it into place. And at that point, you've got everything is in there and rotating good. So now that I wiped my hands off, I'm going to go ahead and get oil back on them because, you know, brainiac and stuff. But I'm going to go through, drop plenty on the mains. And while I do this, I just go ahead and put a nice bead across all the lifters. It's my off day. I'm supposed to be off today. I'm going to put these right across the lobes, the lifters. Good grief. So, and I just take my little finger and I make sure there's a good coating everywhere. On the thrust, wherever your thrust may be, make sure you get it lubed up really good as well. And then since your finger's all smeared up, I take that smear and I wipe the rear main seal and make sure it's got a nice bit of coated material on it as well. Okay, crank shaft. So I stick the crank in. I'm not going to give it a full spin because nothing's really tightened and moved into place, but I do give it just a little bit just to make sure we're not having any kind of problem already. Heaven forbid. And we do the same with our mains. Throws a nice little coating on there. Bearing tangs go together on a small block. One. Again, on the rear main, you want to get it good and covered. And then go ahead and do the thrust side also. I do the thrust side on the bearing, but on the rear main on a small block, it's kind of hard to get your finger in there. So I just go ahead and smear it on the thrust itself. I'm just trying to prevent everything from starting up dry. So then I'm going to put a little on the rear main seal, and we have it offset just a little bit, clocked up over here. So that way the gap isn't over, or the parting line isn't right over there to seep out oil. Good deal. Hand check. Good job. I gave it away to somebody. Crank rotates really good with that thick assembly lube in it. All the bolts are going to torque to 65, except for the rears that are 1/2 inch, and they're going to torque to 100. So quite the jump, but that's what Dark calls for, so that's what we're going to do. Tip, I just stand back here and put my foot on the engine stand and pull to the rear. Some people don't have long enough arms, and maybe this is terrible for my back, but you could also stand over here and give it one of these. Put your foot across the engine stand leg. And then I pull them down to where they're snug, and then I go ahead and finish the torque. So I pulled it down and it showed 45 on here. You don't have to do that, but I don't want to torque one and have one really, really loose. That wouldn't make any sense. Okay, so all those are torqued, the centers. Now we got to do the spade bolts, and we just go down through the same way. Obviously, you wouldn't want to torque the outers before you torque the inners. I think that would make it do all kinds of funky stuff. So now we need to align our thrust. So I've snugged this rear, but I haven't torqued it yet because I don't want it to clamp in place yet. We're going to align our thrust bearing. So to do that, you're just going to just like that. And then the rear is going to go to 100 foot-pounds. So now, go ahead and rotate that sucker. Make sure it's still going to be okay. And look at that. Wiggle, wiggle. Looks good. And I document everything, so I torque the mains. Time to go write that down. We're going to check our crankshaft in play. And as you can see, we've got it hooked up on the end of the crank. So there's 2. I'm going to 0 there, just so you guys don't think I'm cheating. And then we'll go the other way. 5. So typically we want about 3 thousandths to 11 thousandths on that, on the crankshaft thrust. That's forward and backward movement in the crankshaft. We had 4, 5, 4.5, 5. So we're pretty satisfied with that. And the other cool thing, we're gonna put the timing chain on, and I'm not flipping the engine over to do it because that's a waste of time. Hey buddy, you wanna come check it out? All right, so this is, see this 0? Yeah. Okay, so that 0 is the same. If the crankshaft's on that keyway, see these squares? Yeah. These are keyway. And if it's on that keyway, that's that 0, which is the same as that 0. The marker. Okay, and I gotta line up that 0 with that dot right here. So look at this. We spin this guy around and around and face that dude upside down. And we can take this in here and hang it right on there like that. Does it look close? Looks like we're a little bit off. So we're gonna walk it around one chain groove. That looks right. See there? Now I can run this bolt in. Right there. Maybe. Something's dripping. Huh? There's oil dripping. Oh yeah, down here? Yeah, that's okay though.
Not down there.
Not down there?
Right here.
Oh yeah? That's okay. Okay, so we're not worried about our camshaft thrust or in play right now. We're just worried about getting this cinched down so that way we can check the degree of our cam once we get there. And that way the cam's rotating in relation to the crankshaft and it's clearing the connecting rods as we spin it around. So I'm not going to put a cam lock plate on it or anything right now. I'm just going to put it in like that. So should be good to go. Still rolls just as good. Until we get the pistons in. You're right, buddy. Okay, at this point, crank's in, torqued, camshaft's in, and ready to rotate. And I'm going to check rod bearing clearance, then file fit the rings, and have all that ready. So I'm going to do a little bit of prep work, and then we'll be right back doing that. But right now, we've got crank spins. Okay, really quick, I'm putting piston rings on. I thought, you know what, I might want to share with you. This is a little pamphlet when you order rings from Total Seal. And it gives you guidance on where to locate your ring gaps. So, figured I'd show that. Y'all can screenshot it if you want it. This is what I go off of whenever I'm putting my piston rings on. Is your engine going to run like crap if you don't do this? No. Is your engine going to not survive if you don't do this? No. Is your engine going to make 100 more horsepower if you do this? No, probably not. But why not take some advice from the experts and do what they recommend? That's all I'm saying. So with that, I'll show you how I put piston rings on. We've got our number 8 piston. So I just took a dot. Yeah, these are used, but they're in good shape. I took and dotted the front. So pointing the front, if you reference that picture again. So we're going to put I'm going to stand on this side. It makes me feel better. So we're going to take our oil expander ring, and I just leave it, drop it over that, and that's pretty basic. Then going off of our chart, we've got the bottom oil rail. I kind of put it over here in the window of the piston, and I just walk it around, and I hold my expander ring gap in place as I wrap that around, and then I grab it and make sure we're still moving, still free. Take your other oil rail and bring it around, okay, and then still free. Then your second piston ring goes numbers up, dots up, bevel up, whatever you got. Make sure you have it orientated correctly. That will make a humongous difference if you put your rings in upside down. So that's in. Make sure we're filling free, and that is between the 2 oil rails is where you stick that gap, okay? This is a Total Seal gas ported ring, something we were just wanting to try out on this piece. So we didn't go gapless this time. So but we did go gas ported on the ring itself. So then we're going to take that and we put it, and it's 180 degrees apart from the second ring. So make sure everything is floating free, and also that your ring depth is floating and it's clear in there, so that way your ring can actually compress like it needs to. But that's how I put piston rings on. We've got our bearing clearances set and checked. We got our ring gaps gapped. Got that. Ring gaps gapped. We have our ring gaps set. Piston rings installed. I'm ready to start putting pistons in. Boom, baby. Okay, we got 4 of them in. We're just rolling it over. Make sure we're still rotating good. Literally on the rod bearings, I use the same assembly lube I use on the main bearings. Skirts of the piston and the cylinders, I spray everything down with a good coat of WD-40. Clean the cylinders one last time before we go at it, and that works really well. So anyway, we're here. We're also feeling to make sure our connecting rods aren't hitting our camshaft, because we're getting into that territory now with big cams and big fat honking rods, longer strokes, all the things. Feels like we're in good shape there. Yeah, baby. Just like that, we've got 8 pistons and rods in, and everything is rotating good. Don't get too crazy and aggressive. Go ahead and do it gently and make sure you're not hitting something like oil pan, camshaft, any of that stuff. So, but like I said previously, this is a rebuild or freshen up, however you want to call it. So this engine has ran before, and we paid attention to it when we took it apart to make sure there wasn't anything really crazy standing out. So we are in good shape, and we are confident in that, but we have a new camshaft, so it's worth checking. It's worth paying attention to. Anyway, I'm going to call it a night. I've got rod bolts, connecting rod bolts on their way here, and so we'll be able to button up the bottom end and then move on to the top end. See you tomorrow night. We've been using Schumann's oil pumps for a while now, for anything that, you know, is a wet sump. So we used a lot of the Mellings, high volumes for like stock stuff, stock volumes. We've used a lot of the Melling shark tooth oil pumps and their performance style oil pumps. But we started using these Schumann's oil pumps, and I just wanted to show you. So we still take these the base plates off of the oil pumps and just inspect them, make sure there's no oil, no debris, no anything like that. But I figured I would show off this oil pump. These are dimples, just to get a little oil rolling underneath that. It keeps from scarring up the base plate, and it keeps them rotating freely like they should. There's an oil groove slot here he's cut, and that will actually oil this, because this is on an idler shaft. This gear here is. And then this oil pump also has the paddle wheel, their patented paddle wheel technology. And then there's also a groove cut into the inside of this to oil this idler shaft. So they really do their homework. They really have good attention to detail. If you need anything, Schumann oil pump makes a really killer oil pump. So they've got a lot of patented designs, and they've been around for a long time. So really thrilled with working with those guys all the time. All the time. And no, that wasn't sponsored. I'm the only one that sponsors these crazy videos. We just like to use good products. Okay, so the other thing that Schumann really recommends is using these copper gaskets, and I don't disagree with them. So you just drop it on there first, and then you put the pickup on. Does anybody catch what I forgot? Drive shaft? Yeah. That's a cheap item to just go ahead and, you know, throw it away and replace it. That's new. And I really didn't need to put that on there yet because I'm doing this right now for fitment. You know, we're waiting on, I said the other day we were waiting on rod bolts. So I just wanted to snug all this down and make sure our oil pan clearance is going to be right. It's clearance. So we're mocking up while we wait on some parts. And then I had this whole base plate off, so, and I already got my good shirt dirty, so then again, sorry. Not a shop shirt. I was supposed to change, and I forgot. Maybe I should start wearing an apron. That'd be a good idea. Okay, the oil pump pickup and the oil pan is from Champ. It's a nice one. So, please. All aluminum. Just show it off here. Billet front, rear caps, and pan rails. TIG welded with windage tray and trap doors. Side kick out and low profile. So, it's a really nice pan. We used a lot of the Champ pan pans. I'm saying chimpanzee. Man, that is a good looking unit. But we've used a lot of these and always good results with them. And you don't use a gasket with this, it's all RTV. So now I'm going to take and measure that dude up and make sure it's going to fit. Around, if you're going to measure it and do it this way, then measure around and make sure you find the highest point, which will be the furthest distance from this to this that you're going to have. That way you can really compare it in the pan. This is not on anything that turns any kind of RPMs and revs up and runs hard. This is not a measurement you want to skip. So 6.5 inches from the pickup to the pan rail, and that was out at the bolt hole, and that's 7 inches. So that's 1/2 inch of pickup clearance. Thrilled with that. So when I put this together, I used the stock rod bolts that came in these rods from Lunati. These are really beefy rods, good rod bolts, 7/16 fine thread rod bolts. They're ARP 2000s, but I don't know the life of them. I don't know the history of them. I don't know what they've been through before they were in this engine, and I don't know when they were built. So it's just in my best interest to go ahead and have those replaced. It's also in the customer's best interest to have them replaced. It's just peace of mind, and it doesn't cost that much in an engine like this to upgrade that kind of stuff when they come back in, because a rod bolt failure is enough to trash all this work and all of this money that they've already invested. This is going to be a lengthy process because they want to put the rods in. I'm just going to snug them in so we can go through all these and get them all changed, and then I'm going to come back and torque them all, and then I'm going to come back and loosen them all and then torque them all again. So it's going to be a little bit of a lengthy process, but if I'm going to go to the trouble of replacing them, I'm going to go to the trouble and doing exactly what the manufacturer expects out of this install. This is a extreme pressure lube. It's the same thing that they send in their rod bolt kits. I'm just going to put a fair amount there and then a dab on the head of the bolt itself. I got all the bolts swapped over to the new bolts, and these are going to torque to 30 foot-pounds plus 42 degrees. So I'm going to go through and hit them all at 30, and then I'm going to change the torque rates to degrees, and then we'll go and do the 42 degrees. Okay, and with the instructions of the Oliver rod bolts that I have, they want you to go through and recheck everything. It says, before bolting the oil pan on, set a torque wrench at 50 foot-pounds for a 7/16 bolt, and check all rod bolts. If any bolt turns before reaching the preset torque, it has not been properly tightened. You must loosen these bolts and tighten them properly. So, we've got video footage that we did them all, but I'm kind of a rule follower, and so if somebody wants me to check something, I don't care, just stick it on there and do it again. We're just going to run it up to 50. I'm going to run through them real quick. Okay. 50 and 16. Got them. So now, document that in your engine building notes. Okay, so things we have left to do right here. Oil pump. Got our new shaft installed. Okay, we're going to torque that to 70 foot-pounds. Okay, and once you have your, it's deciding to rain outside, I guess. Once you've got your thrust button set, your depth set against your timing cover, you can put your lock plate on. So, oh, and before I get too far, I pre-bend these tabs up, because if not, it's hard to get them started. So I just go ahead and start to bend them up before I even put them in there. And then these torque to 20 foot-pounds. Okay, and once that's done, take your timing cover and you can stick it on there. These are 1/4 20, but they're 3/8 headed bolts, so they're my favorite. And I'm just using a T-handle, and I just grip it and twist here. And if I need to tighten it tighter than that, then it's too tight. I thought before I put sealer on this and try to bolt it down, I would show you, just so you know kind of what we're dealing with a pan like this. So it's only, well, how good you're gonna be able to see all that, but there's a very minimal gap between the timing cover and the oil pan rail there. Okay, then we travel to the rear of the engine, and it's the same. So right in here, there's really not much room for RTV in there, so we just need to make sure we get gaps down here in the corners, and then all along the rail we'll run a bead down through there and up around. But this is a really nice pan. Whoa, whoa, whoa! So I bought this like 2 weeks ago. I've been dying to try it, but just haven't had time, so it's kind of handy. I just got a little weak in the hands, so I just, it's getting soft. Doesn't matter. Decided to buy it. It's only money. You can't take it with you. So this deal, it's got a speed dial, so you can change the speed, the rate at which it flows. So we'll see how we do. We may make a mess of this thing, but it does have, that's auto pullback, so it's not going to keep on trying to ooze out. You got to stay on that trigger. It's a little bit fast. We'll slow it down here. Actually, we're going to slow it all the way down to go up and over this. Trying to get it in. Tell you what, any cake decorators out there, this thing would be money. Money! Now, I feel like my bead over there on that side is a little bit much. Bead on this side might be a bit much too, but yikes. So remember, anything that you squeeze out also squeezes in. So I'm going to go through here and get rid of some of this. And I may make a mess of it, and if I do, I'm going to scrape it all off and start over, because sometimes that's what you have to do when you're trying to learn a new tool. I just don't want this engine to fire up and start off with a big goopy glob in the crankcase, because oil pumps don't like RTV. They probably would if it chewed it up, but they do not like it when it clogs them up. And I don't really like to use a whole bunch of RTV. Just enough to squeeze some out. So our rate of flow was a little bit aggressive. It was going to be leak proof until I tried to make it better. What a mess. You say, boy, it's got that big kick out there. See, this pan rail's hidden. So these bolts, there's only 3 of them. You actually have to access these from inside. So I'll have to drop a socket down in here with a bolt attached to it. That's the only tricky part of these pans, but this is the power pocket. And the power pocket makes power. So, hooah, hooah. Oh yeah, now we're getting a nice clean squish. Yes. Now it's important, if you're going to drop a tool in the engine, make sure your tools are all going to stay together. This one was not going to do that. It was fully prepared to leave the chat and make me have a really bad day. See there? That'll hold a socket. Now what do we do here? We're going to take a little bit of that RTV goop. All I did was just a little bit on the end of it. And we're going to drop it down like the skilled surgeon you are. Ta-da! Okay, so we've got the back one in. We're just going to keep on with our surgical abilities. And it's all about being patient and luck. And I'm not tightening these, I'm just getting them to where they are started. I prefer to do this just by hand. I'm going to drop this all the way into the pan rail, and then you'll find the bolt hole, and it'll drop just a little bit further. Just start spinning, and it'll grab threads somewhere in there. Okay, so those are all started now. Woohoo! That's a victory. Please still be on my... Well, that one's gonna have to come back out. Remember that RTV I put on there? Well, I forgot to pull the bolt out before it started to set up. But this isn't just normal RTV, it's the, I call it the right stuff. Well, it does a great job. No! Remember how awesome these oil pans are? They really are. They really are awesome, I promise. But now I have to fish this bolt out or pull the whole thing back off and start over. No big deal. Exactly what I needed right now. Well, this is just a bad deal, guys. Bad deal. Well, fiddly-dee. Well, fiddly-dee. Well, fiddly-dee. Here's what we're going to do. Perfect! Ta-da! Okay, it's fine. I'm gonna put some RTV right here now. And hopefully that glob will be stronger than the glob that holds the bolt. What a disaster. Here we go. Jab number 2. Alright, so for those of you wondering at home, well, you got a really cool oil pan there. It's really pretty, but it's got 3 giant holes in the bottom of it. The way that we seal these, the way that Champ has these sealed is they give you these plugs. It's just an O-ring fitting, and they drop in there. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to screw them all the way in till they bottom out, like that. And then they give you a clip, C-clip, E-clip, however you call it. You drop that into the hole. So you put that in there, and then you back your plug up. Okay, so we ran it all the way down. Then we're going to just take and back the plug up against that clip to where the clip can't come out. So, pretty straightforward, and that hole is sealed. Got this plug. Drop it in. Make sure it goes in past the groove for the clip. Oh. Both of those are in now. I'll just back this up against the clip. That's it. Sealed.